Well. Saturday, October 14th, it's noon Eastern Time. I'm Bob Harris. This is the Football Diehards YouTube channel, and it's time for our weekly Ask Me Anything live stream. I'm here to chew bubblegum and answer your questions, and I'm fresh out of bubblegum. But before we get to that, FootballDiehards.com is the website. We appreciate you joining us here on our YouTube channel every Saturday at this time. Also, Wednesdays at 7 p.m. for our On the Hot Seat live streams. If you want to go check out this most recent one with Michael Fabiano, plenty of nonsense in that one. Fabiano can't keep it serious for more. Okay, he kept it pretty serious. We do that every Wednesday as well. Hit the subscribe button, you know that thing, the notification bell, so you know in advance when I'm coming on and you don't miss a damn thing. If you've previously completed those tasks, hit the like button. I like it when you like me. I also think it's fine when you dislike me. I'm disliking myself right now, so everyone can feel free to jump on board that as well. There's a lot of stuff going on, people. A lot of stuff going on. I see the questions already coming in, so I'll get to that. We've got just, let me run down some of the headlines. I haven't seen any developments today. I'm sure you will keep me informed in the chat if there are some, but I mean, we all know the big stories, right? Lots of people on IR. Justin Jefferson out at least 4 weeks. Devon Achane out at least 4 weeks. Anthony Richardson out at least 4. Sounds like more to me. I'm starting to wonder if we'll see Richardson this year. It could be up to 8. James Conner also out as well. Khalil Herbert placed on injured reserve yesterday, so he's out at least 4 weeks. No Roschon Johnson this week. Deonta Foreman, a target of opportunity. No Miles Sanders this week. Chuba Hubbard, a target of opportunity. Love the targets of opportunity. They come in very handy. Deshaun Watson ruled out this week, and it sounds like this could go on for a little while. A little while for Deshaun Watson. Sounds like a deep bruise, a very weird situation. The week, week 4 game, they basically said he was cleared and that he just didn't feel good enough to play. Well, that makes him sound not great, right? That kind of puts him in a, you're making all this money and you're cleared to play, but you're not playing. It sounds like it's more complicated, worse than that. So we'll see. But PJ Walker gets the start for Cleveland against a tough San Francisco defense. Sorry for you, Amari Cooper. Don't feel real good about my Cleveland assets this week. Fortunately, I don't have to play. By the way, David Njoku, did you guys see the photos? See the photos of David Njoku? Oh my God, get on your X device or your Google and check them out. It's horrifying. He got burnt. You remember going into that week 4 game and played somehow, got his helmet on. I don't know. Go check out the photos. He's posted them on his social medias. So check that out. What else is going on? Oh, it looks like no Jahmyr Gibbs. I know. No Daniel Jones this week either. He will be out this week. So Tyrod Taylor will get the start. Saquon Barkley could play. I think Darren Waller will play. So no Jahmyr Gibbs. Sam Laporta questionable. That's a little bit of a concern, but he sounds very optimistic he'll play. It's a late afternoon window. Go out and get yourself some Cade Otton right now. If you want to play Laporta, have a fallback plan in place. Amon-Ra St. Brown returns. He should be fine. Turns out Cooper Kupp's great. Should be great again this week. Oh, the Cardinals running back situation. There are 2 of them. Amari DiMarcado, or as our friend Stacey Perez from Fantasy and Frame says it, Amaro DiMarcado. And Keontae Ingram's back, so we'll find out about that. Doesn't sound like we'll have Jeff Wilson back with Achane out. Seems like he's a week away, so clear the runway for Raheem Mostert this week going against the Panthers. There's a lot going on, people. I see all of you out there in the chat. Hi, Steve. Hi, Jeffrey. Hi, Andrea. Pedro, Albert, Jim Furry. How are you? Steve Lindor. Great to see everyone out there. Mark Spafford, Kevin O'Brien. I see all your questions coming in. I think I will get them now. John Fusek. Mike Arts. Hi. How are you? Tony Graupensberger, hello. So we'll jump in on all these questions. I just want to, before we get into questions, let's do this. Let's just remind everybody. I'm going to answer your questions, right? That's what I'm here to. But I want to set some expectations. I think you're as smart as I am. Right? I'm very old, so I might have the edge in experience. But I consider everybody in this room, you're an expert in your own right. You play fantasy football. You make all these decisions. You've probably had some degree of success, whether you're struggling variously or not right now. My job is to help you maintain your level of expertise to that end. I'm sharing thought processes here, people. Approaches, information, how I use that information, how I process it, how you can use it and process it. In the end, these decisions are yours. Play your hunches over my hunches. Don't let me scare you off plays you feel strongly about. Don't let me talk you into plays that you don't feel strongly about. I think that's always the misnomer here. I'm not here to tell you what to do. I'm here to tell you what I would do and why I would do it. And you get to decide. On Monday, I'm not there. You cannot point a finger at me. Well, I mean, you can, but you're the only one in the room, and you're the one sitting there going, damn it, why didn't I do what I wanted to do? Well, do what you want to do, and, process the information, make wise decisions, and realize that sometimes the best decisions don't yield the best outcomes. Don't kick yourself in the ass for that. Happens, people. Happens to me every damn week. Seems like it happens more than it should this year, but we can talk about that at another time. I'm going to get to your questions now. Again, thanks everyone for coming here every week. Hi, Troy Olson. Nice to see you. Mr. Scamper's in the house. All my friends are here. It makes me very happy. And I know we have a lot of questions, and I know there will be some about Colts running backs. I know there will be some about Arizona Cardinal running backs. I know the questions are coming, and I am here for them. And explain my positions on them. And you can see if you share those positions or if you have other positions and maybe you feel adamantly about, throw it in the chat. If I say something you agree or disagree with it, slap me in the face with it. I'm here for it, people. Here for it. All right, let's get into the questions. Hema, 1161. I have Cup, Nakua, St. Brown, Collins. Who do I start? Also, Taylor, ETN, Kyron Williams for the Rams. Again, who to start? Again, people, I'm pretty up to speed on the matchups, but if you want to, facilitate things, always put who they're playing against if you think about it. Also, if it's common last names, use the first name so I can help figure it out. Like, I know St. Brown is a Monroe because Equinamius went on injured reserve, but like the Williamses and the Johnsons and the Jones and the Smiths and whatnot. All right. Cup, Nakua, St. Brown, Collins. Who do I start? I don't know how many you could start. Oh, there you go. 2 wide receiver, 2 running backs, 1 quarterback, 1 tight end, 1 kicker, 1 defense. So you have one. Do we have 1 flex? You got 2 and 2. 2 and 2. So you got to pick 2 of these wide receivers. I would play Cup and St. Brown. I would play ETN Taylor. So Jonathan Taylor, we're going to get a lot of questions about, I'm quite sure. You need to pick a lane on the Jonathan Taylor, Zach Moss stance, see how you feel. I'm starting to feel, or just based on what I've heard from the team, I'm starting to feel this is a good, the Jonathan Taylor, look, they just paid him $42 million. Big article by Stephen Holder from ESPN up on the ESPN website today, how this came about. And it was essentially the Colts reaching out to Taylor that got the ball rolling on the new contract. And basically the premise is they've got this young quarterback who will be going through his rookie option. They now have Jonathan Taylor tied up through the first 3 years of his career, right? And so those two are together. And then when the contract comes due for Anthony Richardson and they have to pay him big money, they will move on to a different, cheaper running back. But I think the desired outcome there is Taylor. That said, there's still Zach Moss, and it's a tough matchup against the Jaguars. I'd probably play Kyron Williams and ETN this week and avoid the Taylor drama. There you have it. Mike Arts! Thank you for liking my live chat and for thanking me for it. I'm glad you look forward to it. I look forward to it too. This is time, like you guys don't, if you go to the FootballDiehards.com website, it's very good. Tons of information there. And I'm writing tons of information. And I'm processing that information and putting it out at breakneck speed. I don't have time to stop and think about stuff. I stop and think about stuff while I'm talking about it with you people here on the live streams. Also, when I'm on the SiriusXM Fantasy Sports Radio on Mondays, Thursdays, Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays. These are my times where I get to, put my thoughts together and actually think through all the information that I've gathered up. So I appreciate you guys coming. He needs 2, says Mike Arts, for his flex spot, full point PPR, Kenneth Walker, Debo, and Nico Collins. Which 2? I'm going to go with Kenneth Walker. Nico, slight lean over Debo. Tough matchups for both those passing attacks. The Houston Texans, CJ Stroud's throwing a ton of volume. I think the kicker for me here for Nico, number 1, the Browns secondary is no joke. I'm dialing back on Ayuk. It's gonna be a slog for those guys, and maybe one of them shows up. Debo maybe gets a little bit of, or as you call him, Debu. I like that. Should adopt that myself. Maybe Debo gets a few carries. I don't know. The Saints are really tough pass defense as well, but the volume has been really significant. Also, there's Tank Dell questionable. Seems unlikely to play. Unlikely is what Aaron Wilson from the local observer there has reported. We'll find out probably today. Maybe today, but certainly tomorrow. And also Robert Woods is a little beat up. Also, the Saints are very tough against tight ends. So Dalton Schultz has had a couple of really good games, but Will he have another? I don't know. So Nico Collins seems like a good play here. Volume. I know it's been like 2 out of the last 3 weeks, not good for Nico, but the big week was really good. In another league, Mike Arts has a chance to trade Lamar Jackson for Justin Herbert. 6 points for throwing TDs. I have lots of shares of Herbert, plus Herbert already had his bye. Is it worth adding another share? I wouldn't be averse to that. There is something to be said for diversification, right? If you already have a lot of shares, but the 6-point throwing TDs probably, makes a little bit of a difference here. I don't know. For me, it's close enough, Mike, that I might want to diversify and have a share of a different piece with a high-end range of outcomes on his horizon, and I think Lamar Jackson does. They're still trying to figure that offense out a little bit. This might be a big week for him going up against the Tennessee Titans in London. Tennessee, not great at defending the pass. So, yeah, so there you have it. Stay diversified. That's where I'm at. Hello, John Fusak. I am setting Amari Cooper in several leagues. Well, on one, I'm playing Amon-Ra St. Brown, Waddle, Thielen, and Kirk over Amari. I would too. In the other, I'm playing Lockett, Hopkins, Thielen, and Kupp over Amari. No, I think those are all wise decisions. I think that's perfectly suitable. P.J. Walker may be fine, but it's San Francisco's defense. Also, a little side note on San Francisco's defense. A lot of times these quarterbacks come in out of the blue and maybe, catch a little lightning in a bottle. Teams don't have the preparation, don't have a lot of information on them, and they can sneak in a good game. Steve Wilkes was the coach in Carolina, now the defensive coordinator in San Francisco. He knows a little something about that dude. Hi, Tony. Shaheed or Josh Reynolds in a PPR flex. Here's how I play this. And I should say, Josh Reynolds is probably both. Like a guy who will help you avoid a zero and a guy with some upside, right? But with Amon-Ra St. Brown back in the mix, maybe no Sam LaPorta, I don't know, that makes a difference. I'm leaning Josh Reynolds here. I think he's the better play. Rashid Shaheed is fine. It's tough. Houston's secondary has been pretty tough, right? And Carr has gone a little dinky-dunky. He picked up the pace. The ADOT went up a little bit last week, but he's coming off the AC sprain in his shoulder. And so that's a little bit of an issue for him, or has been the last 2 games. So I think that's the defining line. I know Jared Goff is not good on the road, people. The splits are stark, right? I think I have an article up on the website where you can read all about that if you'd like. FootballDiehards.com. Use the promo code DieHards for a 15% discount if you want to subscribe. But yeah, I'm going Reynolds. Slight lean over Shaheed. Just like, basically playing the depth chart here, Tony, for me, right? And when I say playing the depth chart, I mean, the pecking order. Who's higher up in the pecking order at this moment? I think Josh Reynolds is over Shaheed, where you're working through Olave, you're working through Michael Thomas. There is no Juwan Johnson this week, but Shaheed's like clearly third, and Kamara's probably ahead of him as well. I should throw that in there. Steve Lindard suggests you hit off. Like me, please, like me, or not. I don't care. I do care, but it's your call, people. Mike Arts wants to know Moss or Akers this week PPR. So this I think is interesting, right? I will sip my coffee while I ponder the possibilities. That's so good. Moss or Akers. So I've kind of explained my stance on Moss Taylor, and I'll explain it again, though, because I think it bears visiting, right? We heard Shane Steichen this week talk on Wednesday about how this should be a week that they can, so go back to last week. The initial reporting by Diana Rossini was they'll be ramping up Jonathan Taylor over the coming month, right? And so last week, here comes Zach Moss saying ramp this, and he destroys a Tennessee run defense that has not been destroyed dating back to last year. He's playing well, right? Moss is playing well dating back to last year, right? You go to his 5 starts last year. I think he averaged 18 touches, 80, close to 90 yards from scrimmage. Touchdowns are within his range of outcomes. Big plays also, according to last week, in his range of outcomes. I love everything about Moss. I don't like the matchup this week for the running game, but I feel like the Colts want the script to flip here. Whether it flips completely this week or not. So the short version of this, Moss is still a playable asset. I'm not sure he has the upside that we saw last week, but it's possible. Akers, I don't know that he has a ton of upside, right? It's a pass-heavy offense. He's still behind Madison. He may get more. He may get a fortuitous carry. I think Moss, for this point, has a better role, would be my expectation, right? And maybe Akers can gain some ground at some point. I don't see like huge signs of that yet. Madison's played reasonably well the last couple of weeks, so I think they'll stick with what they have until they don't have to. That's the story I've told myself. Steve Lindor, Morning Bob PPR. I need one running back, one wide receiver, and one flex. That's 3 things. Debo versus Cleveland, Brian Robinson versus Atlanta, Rachaad White versus the Lions, Zay Flower versus the Titans, Deontay Foreman versus the Vikings. You're okay with all the names because you said them in completion with their opponents. Thank you, Steve. So Debo's off my list. Zay Flowers is on my list. So I'm going to make this seems pretty easy to me. I'm not against Brian Robinson. Atlanta's playing some defense, though. I'm not against Rachaad White. It's just he does so little with so much volume that I'm not appealing. I feel like I want to play the target of opportunity in a good matchup against the Vikings, and that's Deontay Foreman. There is no Roschon Johnson. There is no Travis Homer. There is no Khalil Herbert. There is Kerry Blasingame and Darrington Evans, right? I think this is the Deontay Foreman show. So I want to play that anticipated volume in a favorable matchup against the Vikings. I'm going to play Zay Flowers in a favorable matchup against the Titans. And probably going to go with Brian Robinson, slight lean over Rachaad White. I don't think, like Brian Robinson, Antonio Gibson was last Thursday against the Bears. That's because from like the middle of the second quarter through the end of the game, there were 55 dropbacks at 0 runs by the Washington Commanders. I think that's not going to be the norm. I think. So that's my view. Not against White. I'm not anti-White. I am anti-Debo this week. Don't like the matchup. So there's that. Let's see. John Fusek. I've lost my running backs and I'm down to Ingram versus Arizona, Pierce versus New Orleans, Pierre Strong versus San Francisco. Oh my gosh. Craig Reynolds versus Tampa Bay. This is very tough. I have to play Ingram or Reynolds in several leagues. So easy number one is Pierce. I know it hasn't been great, but he seems to be picking up the pace. This is probably not a big week for him, but the volume is going to be there. So playing that volume. Then I would probably rank them Ingram, Reynolds, and Strong. Ingram, here's the deal with DeMarcado. We don't know what the hell the roles are going to be. DeMarcado got the role last week because there was no Ingram. Ingram's been out 2 weeks with a neck injury. He is back this week. He's practiced at least fully late in the week. He was limited early in the week. Does he get the full role? I've seen people speculate. We just don't know, right? So here's what we do know, though. I mean, he was the number 2. He was James Conner's backup, and DeMarcado was not up until he got hurt. So, I mean, I think that's the desired outcome, and it will be the eventual outcome. I don't know if that's the outcome this week. Fortunately, however it plays out, I think at some point people who follow the team closely maybe believe that Ingram becomes the early down piece and DeMarcado more of the receiving piece. Maybe that will happen this week. Maybe DeMarcado's both this week. Ingram's first week back. Either way, it's a great matchup for whoever has the ball against the Rams. They're like 25th in DVOA against the run. So there's that. And I mean, Strong and Reynolds, you're taking your chances. That's all I'll say. Hello, Andrea. Mark Spafford. Hi, Bob. You see Salvin Ahmed as the running back 2 in Miami in a sneaky start versus Carolina. Wilson is doubtful. I don't see Mostert getting all of those carries. I think what you say is correct. I see him as the number 2 this week. Chris Brooks is there. They liked him this summer. I don't know that he'll have a role. I mean, Ahmed is definitely the number 2. I see Mostert getting plenty of carries, though, and the game script may call for plenty of carries. So maybe we see a little more Ahmed. But, yeah, I mean, I don't disagree with anything you say. I would have to be in a bit of a pinch, though, to play Ahmed. I know it's a great offense. I know the 2 running backs have been very productive in this offense over the course of the season. So, you know, I get it all. I'm hoping I have better options than Salvon Ahmed, because Miami feels like it has a number of better options, including Devon Achane and when he's healthy and Jeff Wilson when he's healthy. So I don't think he's a desired play for them. But yes, you're not incorrect. I'm like talking smack about your guy without talking smack about your guy. That's like an art all by itself, people. Andrea needs one flex. Chris Olave, Devontae Smith, and Mostert. I'm playing Mostert all day long. I think I would probably take Devontae Smith this week over Olave. Look, I think Olave is going to be okay. This might not be the week that it happens. Picked up the pace. I mean, the last 2 weeks have not been good. He had the touchdown last week. But, this is, I think, more a Derek Carr thing than I almost called him David. What an insult, Derek. I'm sorry I even thought that. It's horrible. The easy call, though, for me, and I ranked them in reverse order, Andrea. Don't you feel like it's a big Devontae Smith game coming at some point here? I do. Kevin O'Brien, M. Stanford, who I believe you mean is Matt Stafford, is a great play versus Arizona this week. Would I play him over Justin Herbert, Tua Tags, or Jalen Hurts? I would not. But I think he is a great play. And look, again, Kevin, these are your hunches. You could play this, right? I mean, I think it's like I have all those guys well inside my top 10, right? Now, where do I have Matthew Stafford this week? And Stafford's right there. Stafford's right at my top 10. I have Hurts as quarterback 3. I have Tagovailoa 6, and I have Justin Herbert 7. Like, do I pretend I have the ability to foresee with that level of granularity who is where within that running wide, that quarterback 1 tier? No. So if you feel like Stafford is your guy, make Stafford your guy. You're going to have to deal with yourself on Monday. I'm not. So I would not do it, but I don't think it's like totally insane. He's got great weapons. It's Arizona. I get it. Steve Lindor in a point per completion league. Which should be the better play? Should be Stafford versus Carrs, Lawrence versus Colts. It should be Stafford, I think. Going back to Kevin's, I mean, everything we just said. Like, I think Trevor Lawrence, he has a good history against the Colts, number one, right? And it's a favorable matchup for him, and he has great weapons as well. That offense hasn't put it all together. We have Lawrence ranked ahead of him, and the algorithm likes him better based on the matchups. I'd probably still play Stafford. I feel a little more comfortable, but they're both reasonable plays. Again, the algorithm likes him better than I do. Or not better than I do. Maybe I like Stafford better than the algorithm likes Stafford. For the reasons, basically, I think what Kevin's working through. He's a great play versus Arizona. I think Lawrence is a great play against the Colts, too. Very tough call, Steve. Don't know that there's a wrong answer. So good to see you, Pedro and Albert. Jeffrey C. Hey, Bob. That's me. I'm Bob. Hi. Bob Harris, by the way, in case you're just tuning in. FootballDiehards.com. It's the website. You can go there, get 15% off using the promo code DieHards. What are you buying? The Flash Update Premium Service. It's fantastic. A bunch of great content creators are working with us to bring you great stuff. John Lobb, you get the Scholars Sheet of DraftKings knowledge right now available to you. Gary Davenport, one of the top IDP minds in the business. We have his tip sheet up. Also, the Shadow Knows, his great weekly column for shadow coverages. My own DFS Tournament 3, and now Jamie Calandro's DraftKings cash plays available. Justin Linero's cheap DFS plays on DraftKings. We have Drew Phelps will have his prop bet stuff up tomorrow in advance of the games, and Monday night in advance of the games. We'd also do some Thursday as well. He's done a really good job with those. Casey Joyner's Blue Rated Wideouts, really good matchups for wide receivers. Brad Cruz, a couple weeks sit starts every week. Early in the week, you go there. Evan Tarciano, Joe Colonna Jr., and Matthew Sharon have their free agent pick up their waiver wire articles early in the week. And, of course, always Reginald James, the commissioner, has his stuff up there. I love the Commissioner HQ article. I'm not even a commissioner, and I read it every damn week. Love it. That's what you get. That's what I'm telling you. It's great. You can also hear me on the radio, SiriusXM Fantasy Sports Radio, Mondays, Thursdays, Fridays at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. Or, I'm sorry, 10 p.m. Eastern Time. My time zone conversion sucks. I hope I'm better at fantasy than I'm at time zone conversion. 10 p.m. Eastern Time, we go 3 hours Monday and Thursday, 2 hours on Friday. Saturday night, 8 to 11 on NFL Radio and Fantasy Sports Radio, 8 to 11. We take a ton of calls there. Get in with that. Tonight's guest will be Tara Roberts, Fantasy Pros, Football Diehards, many sites. Also, Eric Romoff will be joining us for some DFS talk in this tonight, filling in for Jamie Calandro's regular spot. And then Sunday, I do the pregame show with Jeff Mans, 11 to 1. Check that out. It's really good stuff. Jeff Mans is very enjoyable content. Okay. Plugs in. PPR need to start 2 of these 3 wide receivers. T. Higgins versus Seattle. Nico Collins versus Saints. KJ Osborne versus Chicago. 5 bonus points for big plays over 40 yards. Nico Collins is the easy call here. T. Higgins is listed as questionable. It's an early afternoon kickoff. You'll know he's going. I think with the big playability, I'd probably take him over Osborne right now. We've got to see how this receiving core shakes out. I mean, I think we're all anticipating. I think the consensus view is This is the Jordan Addison show. I don't know that that's true. KJ Osborne's been getting tons of targets. He has not done great with them. He has some drop passes. He needs to pick up the pace a little bit. The opportunity's there, and it's a great matchup, so I get it. So is Higgins versus Seattle. If Higgins is available, I'm probably playing him. If you're leery of the injury, he's playing with a fractured rib, right? If you're worried about that, fair pivot to Osborne. Nico Collins, the easy constant here, even in a tough matchup. I'm hoping for the best there. See if that's news happening. Jets, Justin Hardy, I knew that. Andrea, Tutu Atwell versus Arizona or Michael Gallup versus Chargers. Wow, that's so I think okay matchups for each of them. Gallup seems to be coming on. I mean, it's kind of, is it him or is it Cooks? I thought it would be Cooks. I don't know that it is Cooks. I think Gallup's coming on. Maybe the guy that they paid him to be last year is emerging, right? A year removed from the knee injury. Boy, Andrea. I'm gonna check the algorithm. It might know better. When in doubt. Well, the machine likes Atwell better. I am going to agree with the machine this week and go Atwell. Just overall, I mean, more of a pass heavy offense, right? The Rams are pass happier in a great matchup. I'm gonna go with that one. I think we could get a heavy dose of Tony Pollard this week in a really favorable matchup for him on Monday Night Football. In a related question, Steve Pavey wants to know, do you think Tutu can break along one or two catches? Do you start over Dotson or Michael Wilson? Probably start over Dotson for me. And Mike Wilson, I think, is in that conversation. Let me see where we got. By the way, the Dotson, man, very disappointing. Been very disappointing this year, just generally speaking. And this matchup makes him even more likely to be disappointing to me. Probably would play him over Wilson in this one, but I think the easy call is Atwell for me. Jeffrey C. PPR, if Saquon Barkley is active versus Buffalo, should I start him over Jerome Ford and Zach Moss? Well, here's the problem. You don't know this until Sunday night. It's a Sunday night kickoff for Barkley. I'm not really interested in playing Jerome Ford against the 49ers. I'm just not. Right? Just not. So I would probably play Zach Moss. Not like loving the matchup against the Jags. They're playing pretty tough against the run. But I don't know, what are our expectations for Saquon Barkley? What are our expectations for the Giants offense? I mean, we've got no Daniel Jones, right? I mean, that's just the starting point. We have no Andrew Thomas, the offensive tackle who's been out all along, who I think is a cornerstone to these problems. You're also without Matt Pert, John Michael Schmidt. I think all those guys are. I mean, you're down 3 offensive linemen. I wonder if they even force him back into the mix, right? So yes. If the question is, you got to sit Saquon, yes. I play Moss. Thinking Josh Downs over Palmer, what do you think? I think I would probably agree with that, Steve Pavia. The volume has been there, especially with Gardner Minshew at quarterback. I think Josh Downs is a good volume play over Palmer. Deontay Foreman, Andrew wants to know, versus Minnesota or Rashad White versus Detroit, half-point PPR. I'm probably going Foreman here. For the reasons I said earlier, I know you were here, Andrea, but if anyone else just joined in, I think the issue for me with White is obvious. I mean, it's just like you're not getting any return for the volume that he's getting. He's getting the volume. No one's cutting into it, right? And at some point, maybe he falls into the end zone for you and things are lovely. But I think Deontay Foreman in a matchup against Minnesota, the way the Bears can run the ball or have shown the willingness to run the football, see some big games from Khalil Herbert. I've talked to people this summer, like knowledgeable people. Hub Arkush of Pro Football Weekly, a guy that's been reporting on this game for as long as I have. A serious reporter. He was sure Foreman was going to be the lead back during training camp. Now, he was wrong, but, based on what he had seen, I mean, do you think Foreman, being a serviceable replacement doesn't seem like a reach? I'd play that. Just hope the offense is better in a favorable matchup. Detroit's playing pretty tough up front as well. And Steve Pavia, got to sit Saquon. Yes. I think so, and I would probably go with Zach Moss instead. I would play it safe. I feel like Barkley's ready to come back. Do I think the Giants think it would be smart to bring him back under the circumstances that we're seeing? I don't know. I mean, I hope for our Monday night or Sunday night football watching sake, they do. I'd like to see something. Well, I don't know. Do I really need to see Saquon Barkley not playing as well as I'd like him to play? I don't know if I need to see that, but maybe I'd like to see some side of him. Jerry Jeudy, Jeffrey C. says, was dropped in a 12-team league, 4-man bench. Should I drop any of Osborne, Spears, Tank Dell for Jeudy? I have a blind spot for Jerry Jeudy. Apparently Steve Smith does too. Apparently Jerry Jeudy, not a big fan of Steve Smith either. But I've kind of agreed with what Steve Smith's assessment of him, and like, who far be it from me, I'll let Steve Smith, say it so I don't have to. He seems like just a guy to Steve Smith. Steve Smith's a future Hall of Fame wide receiver from the NFL. So maybe he knows better than me. So, I mean, if I dropped one of those guys, it would be Spears, and I don't know that I want to drop Spears. By golly, that's where I'm at. Oh, look, Toronto Dave's in the house. I scrolled way down past all the questions. I need to get back up. Oh my gosh, there's lots of questions. I guess I have to go faster. Here we go. Andrea, Logan Thomas versus Atlanta or Ferguson versus the Chargers, PPR. I'm playing Logan Thomas this week, and Ferguson is also a great play. A slight lean to Thomas. Both of them are great plays, Andrea. Thomas for me. Troy Olsen just called me a legend. It's the nicest way to call somebody old there ever is. Thank you, Troy. It's good to see you. Thanks for coming, man. It's always good to see Troy in Canton, or when every chance I get to see Troy is always great. Thank you, Jeffrey. I appreciate that. Good morning, Royal Slade. 513 rookie. I've been listening and watching, but it's been a while since checking in. Hello. Nice to see you. Jim, heard about you on Sirius. Oh, heard me on the radio this morning. I was on FTN with Lauren Carpenter, Chris Meany. And I did talk about Darren Waller and, some of the things that, we might be having issues with him. Look, not everyone turns out to be the thing we expected them to be. Jahmyr Gibbs tells me this every week. Darren Waller, I don't know that he's telling me. Darren Waller is not in the circumstance I envisioned, right? This offense isn't where I thought. And I think we could tie this to the offensive line issues that have been problem all season long. But you've seen signs of Waller, of what we hope he can be. And maybe at some point as the season progresses, he can emerge as that. In the meantime, there are Logan Thomases, there are Jake Fergusons, there are plays. I don't know that any of them have the upside. I mean, clearly Logan Thomas does, but I don't know if any of them have the weekly upside. Something Michael Florio wrote on NFL.com this week, which I think is really smart. Michael Florio is a smart kid. I like him. But he wrote about, the streaming tight end options. And, let's say you have George Kittle or you have Dallas Goedert. It hasn't been good all season. Then all of a sudden they come up with these big games. They have those games within them. Do some of the other guys you're streaming have those big games in them? I don't know. I do think like Logan Thomas does. But, we haven't seen it from guys like Chigakonkwo that we expected and other players, right? So I do think, there's – like the guys like Waller, so basically the advice of Florio was stick with those guys with that high-end upside, because you're going to get that high-end upside, and hopefully they can cobble together a good floor in the meantime. And I think Darren Waller mostly has. There's been games where he hasn't, and there's been games where he's been good. I think against Arizona, he had a great half. So did everybody. That half against Arizona, if we could just get more of that from the Giants, what a beautiful world it would be. With Jeff Wilson still out, it's Salvon Ahmed or Chris Brooks number 2. We talked about this a little earlier. I think it's Salvon Ahmed, but I'm not being dismissive of Chris Brooks. He's in the mix. So that's my concern. If I'm looking to leverage Salvon Ahmed, the presence of Chris Brooks worries me. And I don't know that it should. I don't know. It's a bit of a mystery. Jim and Stampers, exchanging greetings. Pedro Resto, Bob Cleveland is killing me. Do I drop JSN for a Chicago Mooney against Minnesota pickup? Thinking of sitting Cooper. I would play Cooper. I would not want to play Ford, but I get that you might have to, so not against it. I'm playing Mooney. I picked up Mooney, and JSN is, here's the view of JSN. It is something that Matt Waldman talked about on this very YouTube channel. I've had him on multiple times, but one of the things he's talked about with JSN is this looks like a long-term play, right? Like this wasn't a this year thing, but at some point he's going to turn into that offense's Cooper Kupp. Shane Waldron, the offensive coordinator, is a Sean McVay disciple, right? And they're trying to, I think Pete Carroll and crew and Waldron are trying to morph that offense into more of that approach. They've been super run heavy, but they want to go pass heavier, and they need that receiving piece, and that they think they believe JSN is going to be it. He's just not it now. So I get that, Pedro. And I would probably rather play Moody against Minnesota this week. So there you have it. Don't know that I want to drop JSN, but I probably would. I just don't see it clicking this year. Deontay Foreman, Kendre Miller start one. Ricky AA, I'm starting Deontay Foreman. The clear path to workload this week is in a favorable matchup. I like Kendre Miller. Wait, I don't say that. I've invested in Kendre Miller, so I'm hopeful. But Deontay Foreman's a smarter play. Jeffrey C., do you like Nico Collins or Gabe Davis rest of the season in PPR? Also, would you offer Nico Collins and Javonte Williams for Mike Evans? That would be an overpay for Mike Evans. I think you're underestimating Nico Collins. I would prefer Nico Collins. I would prefer the wide receiver one in a pass-heavy offense, even if it's not as good as the Bills' offense. Look, Gabe Davis, I've had a blind spot for. I do not. He's been fantastic this year. One down game. He's always been that up and down hit-or-miss guy. He's been way more hit than miss, right? So I do think he's developing and he's emerging, and it's a better offense. Not every week. It hasn't been better every week. I think it will be over the course of the season. So perfectly reasonable question. I'm taking the wide receiver one over the wide receiver two because I think Nico Collins has been pretty good, and CJ Stroud is better than I expected. And also, and that, I think that's too much for Mike Evans. A lesser receiver as Javonte Williams would be for me. Royal Slade, half-point PPR needs one in the flex. Josh Downs at Jacksonville. KJ Osborne at Chicago. Josh Palmer versus Dallas. Tyjae Spears versus Ravens. I'm going with the first two for anticipated volume. And it's close between Osborne and Palmer, honestly. How close? I should check that and see. It's very close. We rank them 41 and 43. The algorithm slightly leans to Palmer. I slightly lean to Osborne. 41 and 43. Slade. So Royal Slade. Interesting. And Tyjae Spears. I mean, I think let's talk about him for a second. I mean, he's been getting about half the snaps. He's got some touchdown equity. I mean, things are looking pretty good for him. It's still hard for me to think I can predict which games he's going to show up for and which games are going to be Derrick Henry games. That's my issue with him. The only issue with him. Maybe that evolves as we go along. I mean, there's already been an evolution, right? But maybe it evolves further. Pedro wants to know what my thoughts are on Cade Otton against Detroit this week. Thoughts on Luke Musgrave rest of the year. Luke Musgrave must be on point, not get chewed out and benched perhaps. I like Luke Musgrave. I think this Green Bay offense is going to be a work in progress for the rest of the year. And they told us this, right? So I've talked a lot about Jordan Love all year, thinking the Packers believe they have something better than maybe the rest of us were aware of. And I think they still believe that. He needs to complete more passes. I think Matt LaFleur needs to do a better job of coaching, though. Their early game scripts haven't been working, and their adjustments haven't been great. But they need a better completion percentage from Jordan Love. I think they'll get it. But one of the things they told us early on was, moving on from some of the older receivers, etc., they wanted a young receiving core to grow with Jordan Love. They're making this a long-term play. That being the case, I think, Musgrave is a great long-term play. I don't know if this year is within that great long-term portion, right? And it may, they're going to be good games, Pedro. I think Cade Otton is a reasonable play against Detroit this week. A great pivot. If you have Sam Laporta and you're worried about the questionable designation, I think Cade Otton's a guy you could probably pick up and stream this week. What do you think about Tampa defense against Goff? I think it's as much the road against Goff as anything else. So the splits have been pretty noticeable. Right, so I think it's probably a concern in Tampa Bay's defense. What do we got doing? We got some activations going on here. Let me just make sure nothing that would change the answer. PJ Walker officially elevated to be the starter, which we knew was going to happen. He was on the practice squad. He wasn't the actual starter. So, but we do this. Let's see. The home road splits have been a worrisome, right? That's been the bigger problem. Buccaneers have not been one of the league's best pass defenses, so the matchup is kind of favorable. But the home road splits I talked about Goff has averaged 22 fantasy points per game at home, 12 per game on the road since last season. He averages 2.5 passing touchdowns in 11 home games and 0.7 per game on the road in that span. So his 2 down games this year, both came on the road. So I think that's the bigger deal. Tampa's defense is a thing, and so is the road, apparently, for Goff. Hello, Shady Mazzy. If I say one of those right. Thanks as always. So thank you as always for coming. I appreciate y'all being here, man. This is fantastic. I love this. In a full PPR, I need to bench one: Olave versus Houston, Thielen versus Miami, Nakua versus Arizona, Davis versus the New York Giants. Somebody want to hold my hand while I do this and tell somebody to bench Chris Olave in favor of Thielen, Puka Nakua, and Gabe Davis? I did it. I just did that. It's shocking, right? I mean, I just feel like the matchups, Thielen has been on a 4-game tear. He's been a top piece for 4 weeks now, right? And this is going to be a game of playing catch up. I have a hard time benching Thielen. Nakua is, last week we had he and Kupp both wide receiver 1 producers, and they're going against Arizona. Gabe Davis, as I mentioned, is on a bit of a roll himself, and it's against the Giants. I think the Buffalo Bills are looking to get things rolling. And Houston's a fairly tough pass defense, and Derek Carr's pop gun arm isn't working to Olave's strength right now. This is not a permanent condition. Listen to me talk myself into this one, people. Thank you. Very impressed with myself. That's where I'm at, Shotty. So that's the information I am sharing with you. It would be a tough decision for me as I sat there to pull the trigger, but I think I would do that. That's what I would do. 513 rookie, this is becoming a weekly conundrum for me. We get those. Poor you? Yes. In a PPR, non-PPR, starting ETM, but choose between Pollard and Montgomery. I would probably play Pollard and Montgomery this week over ETN. I would change the narrative there. I'm hoping Pollard comes through. Dallas has been horrible in the red zone, or had horrible luck in the red zone. They haven't been horrible. They get there all the time, but the results in the red zone have not been what we hoped for. So there's that. It's very tough. I get it, man. That's a tough call. Yeah, all these good commodities. If you have a weakness at wide receiver, maybe you can trade for an upgraded wide receiver and maybe a slightly lesser back that you could still play, but wouldn't be as hard a decision. Scampers wants to know, how many records will Miami set against the Panthers? Tons. I'm starting Ahmed at several places for upside to avoid yucks like Broncos, Ravens, running backs, and other backups. Perfectly serviceable. I think that's what you're doing here, right? You're playing the offense. You're playing the matchup and the offense, even if it's not a frontline piece, as opposed to not frontline pieces in not great offenses. Makes perfect sense. This is next level play. This is chess versus checkers. That's what I expect from Mr. Scampers. George Play 01. I have Kenneth Walker, but I'm worried about the playoffs matchups. Do you think I should trade for a running? Who do you think I should trade for? I had a question like this on the radio last night, and I'm saying I don't feel like I want to trade Walker. I don't want to trade a top 10 back. I mean, I get it. The talk and the question last night was, could you get a Jonathan Taylor? Probably could. Right? I think the Jonathan Taylor managers would probably do that right now based on what they're seeing in the moment. Maybe you could do that. I don't know that I would do that, George, but if that's what you want to do, I think that's the level or the kind of player I'd be looking for. Maybe you could get an ETN. Ed H. Hi, Bob. Looking like Higgins-Dell may not play. Can you rank these possible flex fill-ins? Mike Wilson versus LA, Charbonnet versus Eddie, or I could drop P. Ryan Mims for Jonnu Smith versus Washington or Shaheed. I think I'd play probably Mike Wilson over Charbonnet. I have a hard time with Jonnu Smith, man. Let me check something. Oh, no. Don't want to check that. I want to check this. It helps if you can operate your computer. I would probably play Wilson. At FootballDiehards.com, we have flex rankings that ranks everybody at all the positions in a flex style. How convenient is that, especially for our purposes right now? It likes Wilson better, too, than Charbonnet. So or like Charbonnet, slightly ahead of Wilson, but they're in the same range. I think the offense is, boy, that's a tough call. I might be a little too Wilson-centric here. That's the direction I'd go. I think those are both perfectly serviceable plays. I probably wouldn't make one of those drops. Wendy, hello. Full house today, you betcha. Looking forward to coming on your pod on Halloween. Boo! I'm very scary. I'm wearing my costume now. I hope people are horrified. Michael Berry, happy. Hi, Bob. Half-point PPR, Chuba or Nico. I'm probably going to play Chuba this week. Like, don't go overboard on Chuba. I think this is going to be, we've mentioned the Scampers, set the tone there. How many records do you think Miami will set? It might not be a run-heavy game. So, but I like the target of opportunity notion here with Miles Sanders out. Nico, I do think he's fine. I think the Saints pass defense has a little more for C.J. Stroud. Guy has yet to throw an interception, right, this year. Maybe this is the week he does it. It's our buddy D-Bro, Derek Brown over at Fantasy Pros, calls it a nasty Saints secondary, and I agree with that. I think it's a tough matchup. So I'm going to go with Chuba here. Honestly, I don't feel like fully convicted on this one. I'm kind of enjoying what Nico's doing, but I think neither matchup is great. I'm going with the volume, or the more likely volume for Chuba. Hi, Dame. Nice to see you. Thanks for coming. Pierce. Michael Berry. Pierce. Where does that tack on to? What am I missing? Oh, Michael Berry. There was a question for Michael Berry. I'm getting a lot of questions, people. It's hard for me to keep track. Michael Berry just says a random Pierce. Oh, hi. Oh, is Pierce also in the mix with those three? Ooh. I might play Pierce over Chuba, but it's pretty close there. Saints also just tough defense in general. Damian Pierce or Chuba Hubbard, Jeffrey C. says. I think that's, I think in a vacuum, I would love to play Hubbard. I just can't play. I think the volume is going to Pierce, right? And like, he's kind of coming on a little bit. I don't think this is like going to be his breakout week. I probably like him as I think it through a little better than Chuba. That goes for you too, Michael Berry, as I reflect on this. And also check the algorithm. So Pierce, I think better volume, right? Just seems more likely. Could be a hard passing day for Texans. Pierce gets all the work, right? There'll be some. Look at me talk. Look at how I do this. Talk myself out of Chuba Hubbard. There's going to be a LaVisca Chenault. Okay. Mostly it's just I'm worried about the game script in this one, which was a concern when I first answered it. It is less so in the Texans. Drake London or Breece Hall. Breece Hall for me, please. Seems to be fully integrated back into his lead role and an explosive, dangerous threat. I do like Drake London this week, though. I mean, I like him in a vacuum. Don't like him in connection with Breece Hall, who has a tough matchup, right? Philadelphia's tough game. But man, he has that explosive ability. I think, Drake London has big plays in him, and it's a favorable matchup for big plays. But boy, it's been a really slim level of slim volume, in general for that passing attack. Pedro Resto, am I crazy to play Kendre Miller over Jerome Ford? Not crazy. If I had to play Cooper, I would rather go with Juan Brown. I think that's pretty reasonable. I mean, I don't have high expectations for Kendre right now, but I have expectations over the course of time. And, I think he's a playable piece. Clearly, without Jamal Williams, he's next man up in that behind Kamara. But Kamara's getting the elite volume, so that's the problem there. But I'm not in on Ford, so I think we're in the same place on this, Pedro. Hema1161, thank you for the advice. We have a dynasty league for 35 years, 16 teams, 8 keepers. Wow. Nicely done. Hard to keep a dynasty together like that. Very well done. If Jeff Wilson plays, would you play him over Rashid Shaheed at PPR Flex? I think that question is going to be answered for us. I think it was already answered when they listed him as doubtful. So the answer is if he plays, yes. I don't think he's going to play, so no. Charles Davis has Luke Musgrave on Bry and David Njoku versus San Francisco. Yes. I would drop Luke Musgrave. I would drop either of them, right? Like to play Logan Thomas this week and every week. The role seems to be real there for Logan Thomas and not without upside. We've kind of projected this when you have the offense coming in from another place. This is the case Kansas City, where there's a great tight end. And part of the reasons he's great is he has a great role. Now, one comes from the other. Like, him being great also helps define the role. But the role is pretty front and center, and Logan Thomas has filled it pretty well in this offense that Eric Bieniemy brought over from Kansas City. 14 team PPR, Zach Moss or James Cook. James Cook this week, Eric Mack. Horrible week last week. I think the Bills get a lot of things corrected this week. Got about 10 more minutes, people, so I will try to power through all the questions to make sure I hit all these. Also, remind you, I'm Bob Harris, in case you forgot. I'm still Bob Harris. This is still the Football Diehards YouTube channel. Please hit the like button and the notification bell, the subscription thing, and all of those things that you'd like to fix, because the algorithm must be fed. When did I get elected to the Hall of Fame? It was the Fantasy Sports Writing Hall of Fame. I don't know. I don't know when it was. 2013? It's been a little while. I'd have to look it up. I think it's 2013. How embarrassing that I don't know that. Jimmy Williams, Bob, your thoughts on the Lions passing game this week versus Tampa? Anyone besides Amon-Ra? What could be a low-scoring game? I would play Sam Laporte if he's playing for sure. Could play Josh Reynolds if I was in a pinch. But that's about it. I ran through kind of the splits from the home road and just generally how it goes, and a pretty tough defense. But that said, I'm not sitting Amon-Ra, and I'm not sitting Sam Laporte. Not. Could sit Josh Reynolds. Could play Josh Reynolds. Good morning, Dominic. Thanks for coming. Toronto Dave, I see you out there with your party hat on. Steve Pavia, what tight end flyer do you pick up before it doesn't go? Otten is my consideration. I've kind of thrown that out there earlier, and I'll throw it out again. I think he's a great play. So go ahead and do that. Hunter Johnson, I sent Olave, Pollard, Ridley for Devontae. Do I accept? Got sent those 1, 2, 3. No, you do not accept. It's 3 for 1. 3 good players for 1. 3 starters for 1 starter. I'm not doing that, Hunter. I like Devontae. I don't like Devontae that much. In my opinion, which one of these 3 receivers would you hold long terms? Josh Downs, Josh Reynolds, or Elijah Moore? Josh Downs. Apparently, there's a solar eclipse going on, people, and we're all missing it. This is what I've been informed. In your opinion, I got that one. PPR, Mike Evans versus Lions or DeAndre Hopkins versus Baltimore? I'm probably playing Mike Evans over DeAndre Hopkins, but DeAndre Hopkins is, how close is it? How close is it? Evans is off the injury report, by the way. I have them both ranked in the wide receiver 2, and they both have upside if they score. I think Mike Evans is more likely to get a touchdown to me. So I'm slightly, Evans has been rock solid, right? Has been very good. Scary Terry or Josh Downs? Now that's a hard question, Steph X. Oh my gosh. I'm not keen on Scary Terry because he's not that scary this week in a not favorable matchup. Hasn't been scary. Target share is like one of the lowest for a wide receiver 1 in the NFL. It's not been good. Josh Downs is getting tons of volume in the standard. See, that doesn't matter though, right? If I was just betting on touchdowns, I'd bet on Scary Terry. But if yardage matters, I think Josh Downs is going to rack it up. Josh Downs is more of a volume play to me. If you look back at his times with Gardner Minshew, it's been double-digit targets, right? So Scary Terry not getting those targets. And this is not a great matchup for him. Look at me go. Here I go again, talking myself into a way lesser play than the guy we invested in to be a higher-end wide receiver. It's how it's playing out right now in the matchup's favorite. I might go Josh Downs in this one. But if I'm betting on a touchdown, if that's the scoring stuff, I probably would still throw the touchdown dart at Scary Terry. All those things said. Should I start Ramondre Stevenson or Raiders or Deontay Foreman versus Vikings? JR 1616. This is my hunch. I'm playing Foreman over Stevenson. It is also the hunch of the Patriots offense, which doesn't seem to play well against anybody, right? It's just not good. Not good. Sounds like teammates are not in on reporting today, you know, that teammates, that Mac Jones has lost to some of the team. I don't know. That offense is a mess. I'm trying to avoid that offense if I possibly can. Andrea, Gus Edwards versus Tennessee or Tyjae Spears versus Baltimore? I'm probably playing Gus Edwards, Andrea, but it's been hard to count on, right? I mean, you know, every time you think he's the play, Justice Hill goes and scores his touchdowns, which is very alarming. But I think you're betting on the touchdown for Tyjae, right? I mean, that's, you know, and I don't know if I want to bet on that. I'm probably playing Gus Edwards because I think there'll be more volume there. But it is a tough question. I understand it. Ed H, what's going on with the usage of Mike Wilson, Arizona, Marvin Mims at Denver? Hopefully just a blip for last week for Wilson. I think it's more a blip for Wilson. You know, I've kind of gone on, you know, stated my case for him is he's a bigger, more physical presence than the other receivers in that offense. And Josh Dobbs is playing good football, people, in case you haven't been following along at home. He's got 6 touchdown passes this year. I mean, it's been good. And I think Michael Wilson is a good piece for that offense. What do we have here? What has Josh Dobbs done? Josh Dobbs, 6 touchdown passes through his first 5 games. Needs 4 more to tie Gary Hogenboom for the most touchdown passes, 10 through a player's first 6 games. With Arizona. That's not bad. So I like Wilson better. I saw a quote, and I don't know if it's just it was a fake quote or what. You know, but Sean Payton saying, you know, Marvin Mims fantasy players aren't going to make him happen. We see his big playability, but we don't see the usage there, and so it's hard for me to go. Wilson is a starting wide receiver. I'm playing that. Should I continue to stash Latavius Murray or go get someone like Ronnie Rivers? I would continue to stash Latavius Murray, who seems far more likely to fall into the end zone than Ronnie Rivers. I mean, and by the way, Murray's gotten some run as a receiver, too, in recent weeks. So, I mean, he's not without some, you know, value outside of just being the goal line guy. But he is one of the goal line guys. Mr. Scampers, PPR, sit 1, Addison Osborne at Chicago, Gabe Davis versus Giants, or Garrett Wilson versus Philadelphia. I think I'm sitting the Minnesota option. I'm playing Gabe Davis and Garrett Wilson. That Philadelphia matchup has been very fruitful. If you fear Zach Wilson more than I do, the Addison Osborne is fine over him. Gabe Davis is the locked-in play. I'm playing Garrett Wilson, though, over Addison and Osborne. Boy, do I feel good about that? I do not feel good about that, Scampers. And for that, I apologize. But that's what I would do, for sure. The algorithm slightly disagrees. The algorithm slightly likes Addison to Wilson, but it's slight. It's like 28 and 30. It's my hunch on the matchup. Let me know what you think, Scampers. Doug Esp. Sorry, late to the party this AM. Play Derrick Henry or either of Flowers Spears. I'm playing Derrick Henry. Could make an argument for Flowers, but I'm playing Henry. Dame. Half-point PPR. Got to pick between Drake London or Chuba versus Miami. I'm trying. So I like London as a DFS play. It's like a tournament play at DFS because I think the matchups are favorable to him. But you're just kind of hoping that you know, you're playing on hope with that passing attack. So if you're swinging for the fence, Dame, it's London. If you're playing just for the volume, I think I have more anticipated volume for Chuba versus Miami, even though I don't think it's like great, like 10 to 12 opportunities as a runner, maybe a handful more as a receiver. Whereas London, do I expect him to get double-digit targets? Seems like a reach. But they could be good targets. Jimmy Williams. This, to me, is a tough call. Debo, Hubbard, Foreman in the flex. I'm going Foreman. Pedro, please tell us that Jahmyr Gibbs will become the stud that he has the potential to be when he gets back. I would love to tell you this because all my shares of him would love to hear this. I don't know that all my shares are going to hear this. Look, you know, so we view players differently than the NFL views them, right? Like they see a rookie as a long-term investment, right? They invested heavily in him. They love him. everything that I bought into thinking he was going to be great right out the chute, they still see, right? But they also invested heavily in David Montgomery. The NFL tells the truth in two ways, and the money they invest in free agency and the draft capital they invest in April. So we saw them invest money in David Montgomery, also in draft capital and Jahmyr Gibbs. So, I think he's a great player. I hope the role increases. I think it will over time. But right now, it's going to be hard to play him until we see that switch. Kyron Williams or Chuba? How is this even a question, Wendy Early? I don't know. I'm playing Kyron. Volume, the matchup, all the things favor him in this one. Thank you, Brian. I appreciate that. I'm glad it's good work. I got a few. Oh, it's almost I lost track of time. Let me get through these last few questions. Holy smokes, everybody. Pollard or ETN? I'm playing Pollard. Am I overthinking plugging Mingo in Miami over Cooper? Maybe. Maybe not, man. I don't want to play Cooper. Mingo had some run last week. Yes, you're overthinking, but also not without good reason. A horrible matchup, horrible quarterback situation. And I know I always say, don't let less than ideal quarterback situations throw you off good players. I don't know that this is even less than ideal. I think it's less than ideal. Why do I have a problem with tight end Smith, Johnny Smith? I agree. I don't have a problem with him, Clinton. Don't have a problem with him. Do I trust it week in and week out? Don't know that I do, but by all means, play him. Who said I had a problem with him? Debo versus Cleveland or Josh Downs versus Jacksonville? Andrea, I think Josh Downs gets a lot of volume. I don't trust Debo in this matchup versus Cleveland. I think this is all a reach. Like Josh Downs, we're playing for that anticipated volume. That's the only reason. If you think that's going to get you in a half-point PPR, some points, I would agree with that. Thoughts on dropping Anthony Richardson for Kyler Murray rest of the season as my backup quarterback? I don't think it's crazy. But we don't know how long Richardson's out. And we don't know when Murray's returning. So we're taking our chances there. Rams versus Pittsburgh, Browns versus Colts, or Green Bay versus Denver next week. I'm not on next week. Thoughts on dropping Freiermuth or Luke to pick up Mooney and not play Cooper? I would drop Luke if I did that. Half point, Chuba or Foreman. I would play Foreman. It was not eclipsed enough now, and I am blind. Thanks, Dominic. Mahalo, Jimmy. Thank you. Josh Allen, Jefferson, and Kyron for Burrow, Pollard, CD, 12 team. I'd be wanting to be on Jefferson's going to miss 4 games. I'd probably be on the side of the guys who are playing. Scampers, I have both Minnesota wide receivers consider starting both with a matchup over Garrett Wilson, but now with layout, I'm leaning. Right, I am too. Hi, Bob. Sorry joining late. Drake London was dropped. Would you drop Josh Palmer, Javonte Williams, even though he played, or Stafford? I would maybe drop Palmer. Thanks, Pedro. Thanks, Andrea. Thanks, everybody. Bob Harris here, running late. You had a lot of questions. I hope we got through them. By the way, man, I'm not against any player, right? I mean, every player has value at some point, right? So, and clearly the Falcons have some faith in Jonnu Smith, but they have other pieces, and it's not a pass-heavy offense. So that's where I'm at. Thanks, everybody. Radio tonight, 8 to 11, SiriusXM NFL Radio and Fantasy Sports Radio. Pre-game show tomorrow. Hit the website, tons of information.